Okay, today I'm going to do three things, and it's really powerful and important. One is I'm going to use the Kouri Richins case as a real world example of financial disjointedness. Breathe on that. Where I'm going to explain how the brain can literally hijack your decision making under financial pressure. And the third thing I'm going to do is show how identity first wealth alignment framework can interrupt this type of spiral. Now, I'm going to do this through a conversation as if to answer some of the questions people have been asking me. I'm not going to put things on the screen, so you are welcome to listen and learn. And then if you have questions, I want you to put them on the comment section because this is really important because it's bigger than just her. You see, most financial collapse, they don't happen because of greed. At least they don't normally start that way. They start with pressure. And see, pressure to keep the system that the person is dealing with alive, whether it's pressure to meet the next deadline or pressure to protect her appearances. And when that pressure rises, something dangerous can happen to the brain. Thus, the part of the brain that responds to long term judgment begins to literally shut down. And survival thinking takes over. Please remember that our brain was designed to protect us. Now, does this mean that I'm saying that her brain engaged and she started doing things? No, that's not what I'm saying. Today, I just want to show you how that can happen and how building wealth the wrong way can quietly lead to someone betraying themselves and betraying others. She betrayed her friend. She betrayed her husband. She actually betrayed her own self. And people say, well, no, she did, but she went. I get it, but she betrayed herself in so many ways. She betrayed her lover. She betrayed all these people, right? The system becomes disjointed and it's not visible at first. It's internal. And when the financial system becomes disjointed, decisions that once felt strategic, because she was lining some things up, she was doing a lot of movement, begins to feel urgent because she kept on filling gaps and holes, right? And the urgent decisions are where people sometimes begin to betray themselves. You see, public reporting and testimony that all of us have listened to a lot. And I'm going to have to raise my hand and say my favorite part was the forensic accountant. When she talked about that, and I hadn't even thought about how deeply a person can shift around from an accounting perspective because I have 47 years of that's my background, that's my jam, right? And I hadn't thought about it from the ways that she discussed it. And as some of you know, when I was on with Dr. Berry, I talked about the fact that I paused before she explained what was going on to see if I could see it. And it was amazing to see it. It was amazing that I could literally see what was going on. And there was a couple things I missed, but trust me, I got it now. So the case actually described a financial structure that included millions of dollars in real estate and debt, expanding projects, increasing overdrafts, down to the point was over $5,000 in overdraft fees. She had bounced checked that's part of the overdraft fee, and roughly $80,000 per month required to service her debt. Remember, she ended up with hard money lenders. And wow. Now, I want to be very clear. Financial pressure does not prove criminal intent. It just doesn't. You see, many people, I have and others, experience financial deregulation, desperation, and never cross any legal or moral lines. But financial dynamics that are described in this case reveal something extremely important about wealth building. They reveal what happens when a financial ecosystem begins collapsing under pressure. What appears in situations like this is not simply overspending. What appears is something much deeper, a disconnected financial ecosystem where the numbers, the documents, the deadlines, and the decision making do not align. Hear me, did not align at all. So, in the public testimony that was provided, there were several patterns that were discussed. Rapid expansion of real estate activity, heavy leverage against property, and re-leveraging other properties like she did with her friend. She re-leveraged it again. Short-term loans with hard money deadlines. Financial statements that lenders relied on, some of them were manipulated. Overdraft and bounce payments, insurance money, even once it arrived, it disappeared so quickly into the existing debt that it was like it evaporated. And what those patterns suggest is something forensic accountants recognize immediately. Not a single financial mistake, but a system under that is literally escalating the pressure. The pressure of making other decisions. And when financial systems come under pressure, something happens in our brain. Our prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that's responsible for planning, impulse control, sequencing, and long-term judgment, begins to lose its effectiveness. Under threat, the brain literally shifts from a strategic thinking pattern to a survival thinking pattern. And this is well documented in behavioral science. So stress weakens the brain's capacity for complex decision making. I'm going to say that again. Stress. So anybody can be under stress. So keep this in mind. Do things to take care of yourself. Stress weakens the brain's capacity for complex decision making and strengthens emotional and habitual responses. So instead of thinking clearly about the next 5 years, 5 days, 5 hours, the brain becomes focused on the next immediate action that needs to be taken. It goes from looking at things from the long-term perspective to what do I need to do right now to survive? I mean, right now. And that's what it opts out to. So researchers literally call this phenomenon scarcity tunneling. And I think while I was with Patrice, I mentioned the fact that she had a scarcity mindset. Well, when you have a scarcity mindset, you can literally dig a tunnel that continue to prove that you're in a place of scarcity. So when Resources feel constrained, attention narrows dramatically. Instead of seeing the world, the whole financial system that she had out there, her mind, our mind, I don't know what her mind did, our mind can lock into the loudest emergency and urgency. The next payment, the next loan, the next deadline, the next deal that can fix everything. And that narrows the attention, that narrows what we do, and that causes the disjointedness to literally expand and the fracture to open up even wider. So, because decisions start being made to solve the next fire rather than the whole system, which is really important, she kept on solving the immediate problems just to get people to stop. Even when the insurance money came in, she did some things, but they weren't the right things. They weren't the things that, for the long term, I don't know, it was myopic instead of looking at the whole picture. In situations like the one publicly described for Kouri, in this case, several pressures appear to have been operating at the same time: debt pressure, liquidity pressure, deadline pressure, reputation with the lenders, her own personal reputation because there was an air that she wanted to maintain.
Jeffrey Lloyd.
Forgive me. So there was an air that she wanted to maintain. And that air was forcing her to do some things to put pressure around areas. Um, it was impacting, like I said, her reputation with financial lenders and all of those things, right? With that kind of pressure, the pressure caused her to want to keep the system alive. And the key with that is all the deadlines were still there facing her. She wanted to protect her appearances. And when that pressure rises, something dangerous can happen to our brain, inside our brain, the part of our brain responsible for long-term decision making. Judgment begins to shut down. And survival thinking, it literally takes over. So today I want to show you how that happens. This is not about judgment. This is how we can take real world stuff and help ourselves to stay out of a place of stress, to make better decisions, and to know how our brain works. So so when you're building wealth the wrong way, again, it causes you to betray yourself. But the system that we're going to deal with intentionally is going to help us build a financial ecosystem that's going to make a huge difference in moving forward. When there's less urgency, when there is opportunity for us to sit there and make better decisions, it makes a difference to the response. Now, let me just be honest. Does that mean that every decision is going to be perfect? No. Does that mean that everything is going to work out absolutely the way you anticipate? Not necessarily. However, when you're thinking, when you are not under stress, when you're not under so much pressure, you can literally make better decisions. It's the way our brain works. It is the way that we work. So when survival thinking takes over, it just causes us to think and shut down other parts of our brain that would help us make better decisions, right? So when we look at this, Um, like I said, many people deal with financial desperation. That's no excuse. Many people have filed bankruptcy or purchased a house or purchased houses or things like that. Some people have done things that are not so legal. However, when you continue to add fuel to the fire, it causes for a greater issue to come up because no matter what you're doing, the embers of the fire are still burning. So that is the case. So let's talk about identity first. So, where identity first deals with the wealth management, I'm going to use that word because it's not just stewardship. Stewardship is part of managing resources. Um, the key with that is when you manage a thing, that means you know what you have in your hand and you know what you're doing, what's available, the steps you're going to take, and it helps you to sustain alignment. So when you're looking at those pieces, it makes a huge difference. So for sustain alignment, let's look at a couple things. Let's talk about what disjointedness can look like in real life. It can look like personal money and business money being mixed together. It can look like loans being taken against assets without clear documentation. It can look like funds intended for one purpose, are y'all hearing me? Being redirected to another emergency. It can look like funds intended to pay or to build is mismanaged and used for personal expenses. And each of these decisions, and there were many more, but each of those type of decisions may feel small in the moment, but together they start building on one another and they create a dangerous pattern. Because the system is no longer operating in clarity, it's tapping into impulse control. Your judgment is loose. Your brain is under threat. So with your strategic thinking, you step into survival thinking. All of those things happen. So because the system is no longer operating on clarity, you're no longer moving forward. You have lost your momentum. And that is critical. Momentum without alignment is one of the most dangerous forces in building wealth. Because success can create an illusion that the system is healthy. Remember, she kept on saying, but I have $11 million worth of property. But you're in debt. It was like she was living somewhere in La La Land. But it's because she wasn't looking at it with calm clarity. She was looking at it differently. So what have we looked at in our lives, right? What have we looked at in our lives that may have looked a certain way? And we thought, oh no, it's going to be okay. I don't have to pay this right now. I don't have to do this right now. It's going to be okay. More money is coming. Something else is going to fill that gap. The next deal might fix it. The next loan, the next deadline is going to fix it. Everything. And so that is narrowing the attention, and the disjointedness continues to move forward, and the whole system starts eroding. So in situations like this, as was mentioned from the public information that we have, all the pressures appear to have been operating at the same time. Everything, every pressure was operating at the same time, and all of them were building up. And so sometimes when that happens, you're looking for a way out. However, sometimes the way out is not as easy as just, let me say it like this. Sometimes facing the way out is more important than making an excuse. And not just sometimes, making an excuse for the way or what happened or saying it was someone else's fault. Because when we do that, passing on the blame to someone else for whatever reason, or living in a place of dreamland, being in a place that the truth doesn't exist, that will then continue to build pressure on us, because at some point we're going to have to face it, because someone's going to send something in. The property started to be foreclosed on. All of those things start happening. So the pressure continues to be heavier and heavier when we don't take care of it when it's a small rock. So her deals, because of the success, because of the illusion of success, the property value that she was assessing versus the real value against the debt that she owed, she was upside down. But she kept on moving. So she had the appearance, but it wasn't the truth. So like I said, the public reporting around this case describes property in the millions of dollars in value, but liabilities that exceeded all of that. So that means literally she was upside down. There's no other way to put that. She was upside down, right? That means that she had pressure, because at some point the truth was going to come out. Someone can look wealthy on paper and actually be financially distressed. And that was this situation. That means something very important internally. Someone can look wealthy on paper or in the natural, carrying the right purse, wearing the right label, but not having any money in your pocket. Let's make it real for us, right? So financial management happens at every stage of our lives. And the sooner we take control and manage what we have, the better it is, because that's how you really build wealth. You build wealth from management and stewardship and truth, and not being in a situation where you are so stressed, your brain disengages from long-term to short-term survival. Now, here's the question that matters for everyone watching. How does someone interrupt the spiral before it becomes destructive? Because the goal of wealth building is not just expansion, the goal is sustainability. The goal of wealth building is not just expansion, it's sustainability. Can you sustain it? It's not just getting it. We know people who've gotten money, but they couldn't keep it. So a healthy response system would include several critical steps, and I'm going to list them. And if you have a notepad, you might want to write these down. Critical steps. The first, radical truth telling about the books. No image management, no optimistic projections, just verified numbers. So it's because the numbers tell the truth. I think also with Patrice, I tell people, I can look at your checkbook, I can look at your debit card and tell you so much about yourself because numbers don't lie. 1 + 1 is always 2. Anything multiplied by 0 is 0. Numbers are truthful. And that's why the forensic accountant was brilliant. She was so amazing. Brought out so many things about the underpinning of everything that was happening from a financial perspective and some of the ebbs and flows. So anyway, let's go to the second issue of how the critical steps, right? A freeze on new speculative deals. If she had just stopped making deals and started working on the deal she had in her hand, or if we would deal with the debt or whatever we're dealing with in real life and say, okay, I'm going to deal with this. This is real. I'm going to deal with it. It puts you in a powerful position and it stops the spiral, or at least it slows it down. The more of these you do, the slower the spiral happens, right? And then at the same time, you get a chance to learn and to build. So when the system is unstable, expansion usually increases risk rather than solving it. So when she kept on doing the deals, or when you keep on moving forward, ignoring the debt or whatever the situation is, our system becomes even more unstable and we increase our possibilities of a risk because we'll start doing things that are more risky rather than solving the real issue. Number 3, the triad of obligations. Understanding which debts carry legal priority is critical, and which can be renegotiated. In this case, when she refinanced or she recollateralized, set it up for collateral on the second property, the property that her friend gave her $45,000 to set everything up. When she did that, it just dug a deeper hole. But if she had to stop for a minute and found out, okay, this is what I can do about this. This is how I bring it forward. At least I have income coming and she's paying rent. And it wasn't coming directly to her, but it was still paid. How can I make good in this space? How can I do better in this space and not keep on digging a deeper hole? So the forensic accountant was talking about financial restructuring from a professional perspective. And she was looking at the numbers objectively, which I love. So looking at that makes a difference. When you know what you can negotiate on, what you can renegotiate on is in refinance, or you can go and you can talk to your lenders, then you end up gaining power and you gain some time and take off some pressure. But that's not what happened. The 5th item is separation of funds. Can we talk about that? She was using her business account for personal expenses and just doing all kinds of things, right? Wrong. Don't do that. Her personal money, her project money, and her borrowed money wasn't clearly documented or isolated. And that matters. So the 6th control to stop the spiraling, the 6th control is literally communication. Talking to somebody. But when you're thinking you're right, when you're perpetrating a fraud, most of the time people don't want to talk to anybody. But that's when you really do need to talk to somebody. if she had let somebody help her, there are not just hard money lenders, there are people that will purchase property that you purchased and at least help you get out of it even. There's so many ways to have dealt with that, but there was no communication. So, and by communicating, it reduces your risk because now you have other people talking to you and helping you walk through it, and it opens up transparency and it builds your options. And finally, the nervous system regulation. Because when we communicate, our brain hears what we're saying. And when we hear additional options, that helps us bring down our stress level. So our brain starts asking us this. It starts looking at this. Not I can't, not it's a lie. Our brain says, how can we do this? When our brain starts hearing options, it starts helping us, because our brain was designed to do this, to help us answer the question, to solve the problem. And that wasn't done. So don't be stuck in this area for your life, because it gives us, utilizing our brain is a great, one of the most phenomenal tools we can ever use. And I know some people will go to AI and ask questions. I'm not telling you not to, but AI is not authentic interactions. And she needed, my opinion, she needed some authentic interactions. She needed the truth. She needed to lay her cards on the table and to have a discussion. Because I don't think her original intent was to come out not being wealthy. I think her original intent was to be successful. And the further it went in the opposite direction, it seems like the further she stepped into, oh, yes, it is not healthy. So, our nervous system regulation helps us to calm down our emotions, because you cannot solve a scarcity brain crisis by moving faster. You solve it by slowing down long enough to think clearly. So, this is where identity first steps in. The framework becomes very practical and very actionable. Identity first says, who am I? Who do I need to be to gain this assets, to have this kind of power, whatever, right? Who am I? And then it talks about the stewardship of money. See, regulation asks, can my nervous system stay calm under financial pressure? Structure asks, are my financial systems clear, documented, and sustainable? Environment will ask you, am I surrounded by people who support truth rather than appearances? Purpose, and this is in the framework, purpose asks this question. What is the wealth actually meant to build? And legacy asks, will the system I'm building survive the pressure that success inevitably brings? When those questions are asked early, wealth grows and it's stable. When those questions are ignored, wealth activity can outrun alignment. And when wealth overruns alignment, pressure eventually exposes cracks. So, one of the most powerful insights in this financial investigation and all the information with this case specifically is that they always, especially the investigation with the forensic accountant, is that they always reconstruct three timelines. Three. It's the money timeline, the document timeline, because it did. It identified the money timeline. When the money came in, where it came from, then it did the document timeline. The documents were created, altered, submitted, and the knowledge timeline. The knowledge timeline is just as important. Who knew what, when? Now, those three timelines tell the story of the system. But the deeper story is always about alignment. Because long before investigators reconstruct the truth, the system itself was already sending signals. She was ignoring it. Signals that the pressure was building, signals that the structure was weakening, signals that decisions were becoming reactive and not proactive. The lesson here is not about one case. It's about something much, much bigger. It's about protecting yourself from building wealth in a way that eventually betrays you. Because wealth that grows faster than the structure supporting it creates pressure. Pressure creates distortion. Distortion can slowly pull people away from their values they once believed that defined them. True wealth must grow in alignment with identity. It must grow in alignment with structure, alignment with purpose, because wealth without alignment does not create peace. It creates pressure. And the real question every wealth builder must ask, and that means even you, is the system I'm building strong enough to carry the success I am pursuing? Is the system that I am building strong enough to carry the success that I am pursuing? Because the goal is not just to build wealth. The goal is to build wealth in a way that protects your integrity, your relationships, and your future. That is what it means to build wealth without betraying yourself. In this conversation, this has been powerful. It's been a little long, but I wanted to really come in and give some insight to talk about the alignment of everything, because it matters. Because we may not be dealing with the $11 million in assets on one side and owe a lot more. We may be dealing with $1,100. Okay? So it's not about the amount. This strategy, this information, this learning lesson that we're getting in this case, don't just look at it with her. Look at what we can learn from it to ensure that we build wealth with alignment. So if this conversation resonates with you, please subscribe, join, and share. Don't hesitate to put things in the comment section. I do look at the comments because the most important wealth conversations are not just about money. They're about alignment. And alignment is what allows success to expand without destroying the life around it. Enjoy the rest of your day. Go back and look at it. Make sure you look at the points, the 6 areas that we need to look at so that we won't continue to spiral. And build wealth. It's a good thing. Wealth is not bad. It's just making sure that we build it with character and integrity. And if you have not seen, um, the Identity First Wealth Alignment video, go back and look at that, and you'll see more of what I was talking about with Identity First. Listen, have a great day.